Hello and welcome to another episode of Artfully Orange. I am Vicki Landon and I am here today with David McElroy of Southern Winds Theater, of playwriting, of performing fame. And thank you so much for spending time with us here today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Wonderful. So, David, tell me a little bit about your acting and playwriting career, which started like over 40 years ago.
I actually got in a play when I was 16 in high school, and I was going to be a chiropractor at the time, or wanted to be. And when I got on stage and decided I was going to be an actor, my mother said, "What? You're not going to be a chiropractor?" So, no, I went to Oklahoma City University for my undergraduate and University of Arkansas for my master's degree. Then I spent 10 years in New York and actually met my wife in Wisconsin and Summerstock. And then we moved to Minnesota, and we were there for like 9 years. And then Marilyn's folks lived down here, excuse me. And we moved down here with, all the theater that was going on at the time. And there was filming and all kinds of things, still a lot going on. And then we decided to, help because I like to write plays. The old Civic Theater used to have a playwriting group, and I went one time and it was totally closed off. So my wife and I and two other people started Playwrights Roundtable, about 28 years ago. And then right after that, we started our own theater, Southern Winds, which we do is what Matt Palm from the Orlando Central calls pop-up theater. We do it here and there. I do my Christmas Carol every year, but other than that, we do things from my point of view, from my playwriting point of view, but also we do other playwrights as well.
That's fantastic. So I want to back up a little bit.
Right.
You met your wife, Marilyn, at Summerstock. Do you remember the titles that you were doing that summer?
Natalie Needs a Nightie, Send Me No Flowers. There was another one that was really bizarre. And what's funny is that we were in two different theater companies, but we had the same director, and she was like 4 hours away, and she happened to have a car. And we had the same day off, which was another thing. And so she would drive down to see me, and I would hitchhike up to see her. And then after a while, I talked her into coming to New York. So
that's fantastic. Now I'm thinking about your background as a performer. I know you've done some work in like daytime television. You've done some work in theater. As a recovering theater kid myself and somebody who went to school for theater, I would like to know about your experience in the art of clowning.
Well, I for 27 years, I played Ronald McDonald. That was here in Florida and in Minnesota and several other places. Went to the Bahamas a couple of times. There used to be a whole realm of Ronald McDonald's, but now it's been kind of cut down. There's only like six of them now. But I retired in 2016 before the kind of whole program went away. And it's wonderful. It was just a wonderful experience. And of course, I love kids, so that's always a really good thing. So, and it was great. And Marilyn worked with me, and sometimes even my kids would come down and work. So, and I have one kid right now directing the Christmas Carol. So, and the other one doing sound. So, actually, it's a family
business. What do you think is different about the theatrical versus the television and film acting art forms?
Well, obviously, when you're on stage, it's live. You get immediate feedback. You have to, in most cases, know your lines unless it's a staged reading of some sort. With television and film, in certain cases, you can you still have the lines memorized, but you have to, you can go back and do a take. If something doesn't go right, or the lighting's not right, or something's happened, and it still requires good acting, good good memorization, but it's just they're two different things.
Do you think your background in like these varied skill sets, right? Like clowning, which is very physical, and theater, which has to be large enough to be seen from the stage, versus television, which sometimes can get up really tight and detailed and nuanced. Like, do you think your ability to have touched all of those areas helps you when you are playing, what is it, 30 something characters in A
Uh,
Christmas Carol as a one man show? Talk to us
36.
about that.
Yeah, it does. I, I've always had an expressive face, and I've always uh, loved to do different types of personality. I was in improvisation for a number of years, worked for the Disney Institute, and did performing improvisation and taught it as well. And it was just it's just all of it is so fun. And I do have 5 one-person shows, so I do work with other people, but I had tendency to do well. And as Ruth Gordon said, I never got a job I didn't create for myself. So that's what I try to do if something doesn't come along.
So, A Christmas Carol, you're playing 37 characters as a one man performer. How many characters are you playing in your other one man shows?
Well, like the Oscar Wilde show, De Profundis, is based on him being in prison. Actually, I have voices, recorded voices in that. I have an evening with Jack Kerouac, which I played Jack Kerouac, and that's the same thing. I have recorded voices. And then there's 2 local ones, the Waterhouse Ghost for the Maitland Arts Center, and Charles Hosmer, The Dream of Charles Hosmer Morris, which is for Winter Park Historical. And those are just one person.
That's great. So I crept in on your resume a little bit, and I see that you have a number of dialects that you will do as a performer.
That's
Do
right.
you have a favorite?
Well, I do obviously like British because I do a lot of British in the one man show, but I also do Scottish and Irish. And at one point, because Britain had, an Indian population, I was trying to work on that too, but I kind of abandoned it because it seemed like it would be too fast to try to get it in there. But yeah, British is my favorite, and Cockney.
That's very good. So speaking of Christmas Carol, what year now? How many years consecutively have you been doing this one man Christmas Carol?
This is my 27th year. During COVID, I was kind of afraid that I wasn't going to get to do it, and we ended up doing it on camera in my house. And my dogs played parts, and my daughter ran the whole television operation. So it was quite interesting to do it that way. But I've consecutively done it for 27 years.
What got you interested in doing it 27 years ago? What was the birth of this process?
Well, Patrick Stewart did it on Broadway, and he actually portrayed all the characters, but he read it from a book, and he would, I think he just sat. I never got to see it, but I heard a recording, and he would sit and do the different voices. And I thought to myself, well, I've done kind of oral interpretation before, and I thought maybe I'll try it. So I adapted a script from Charles Dickens, and then read it for some people, and they went, "Oh yeah, that's great." So the first time I did it, I had a complete set with actual bed and fireplace and all that. But then, as we progressed and we wanted to take it on the road, we decided just to use simple props. And basically, I just put on a coat and hat, and then take those off and do the rest just in a white shirt and black pants.
Well, it's a great testament to your skill as a physical performer, right? And this background in like in clowning and in mime and improv to be able to embody all of these different characters without the trappings or the benefits of things like additional wigs and makeup and costuming and all of
Yeah, I
that.
do
So
wear one extra hat. That's it.
one extra hat. If folks want to come see the 27th iteration of A One Man Christmas Carol or learn more about you or Marilyn or the theater company, where can they go?
Well, Southern Winds Theater is our actual theater, so we do have a website, and then we're doing it at Imagine Performing Arts Studio in I always say Ocoee. It's not Oviedo in the mall, and they have 2 beautiful theaters there. I've actually done it there for like the last 4 years, so it's the December 20th through the 22nd, and they can get tickets there.
That's awesome. And so, like, lastly, before we wrap up, I'd like to hear a little bit about your playwriting because we've talked a lot about you as a performer, but being one of the co-artistic founders of Playwrights Roundtable, what is PRT and how can folks engage with
Well,
them?
Playwrights Roundtable is an opportunity for actors and playwrights, obviously, to have their work presented. They do a lot of 10-minute shows, but they also have one acts, and then also they have readings once a month where playwrights can have their words, have actors just sit and read their words for them, so that they can work on the plays. And it's been a great organization, and they're still going strong. Marilyn and I haven't been actually associated with it for about the last 5 years, but it's still going great. Chuck Dent's running it, and really a good organization.
Well, between Playwrights Roundtable, Ronald McDonald, a fateful summer stock that resulted in a wife and two children who are now involved in the world, it seems like you are leaving quite an impression in your wake everywhere you go. And I appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today.
Well, thank you so much.
Very good. And thank you all for joining us on this episode of Artfully Orange. We'll catch you next time.